Okay, what is the runnable interface? So already in the last class, we already discussed about it, but we can just recollect the information. Runnable interface used to execute the code on concurrent thread. So that means thread, you are creating the thread. To execute the thread, so to execute that thread, we can use the runnable interface. So that means a thread is there, thread can perform a certain task. To perform that task, we should be execute that code. How we can execute that code? So that means by using the runnable interface, we can execute the code on a concurrent thread. Okay, thread. First thing you can easily understand, to execute the code in a thread, we can use the runnable interface. Okay, so next, the second point is that it is an interface which is implemented by any class. So actually in previous we are discussing about the default thread is the main thread. So that main thread is available in the class. So that way you should execute that thread by using the main thread. So this is the within the class, by using a certain class you can implement the thread. Okay, that it is called as it is an interface which implemented by any class. Okay, so first you can understand the theory, then we should go for the problem and program, then you can easily understand. So that means main method is there. So that method is also called as a one main thread. By using the main thread, we are creating the object. So from that object, we can execute the other thread. So that is the meaning of this. It is an interface which is implemented by any class, from any class. That first one. How to execute the program? So that's why in the main thread, you are creating a stuff. You are creating a object. You are creating a object. After creation of the object, there is a T1. T1 is object created, then you can use the T1 dot thread. So T1 dot start. T1 dot start. Whenever you are using the T1 dot start, then it is directly linked to the thread run stage. Thread run stage. This process is called as a runnable interface. This is called as a runnable interface. I can explain one by one. So let us take the runnable interface has an undefined method run. So to running a thread, you require two things. Number one, a start, which is entered into the runnable, and to execute the program, you can use the run method. So two methods are important. Number one, t1 dot start. You can use the some x dot start, and once you are using that start, and it can initiate the running. So this process is called as a runnable interface. Okay. So how to run that? So this is called as a public void run. If you want to run any thread, code of the thread, then you can use first thing, you can place your code within the run. So that's why the first thing is public void run. In the run, there is no arguments are there. There are no arguments. So let us take, this is called no arguments. So here there is no arguments. Okay, next point. The most common use case of the runnable interface is when we want to only to override the run method. So this is called as a overriding the run method. Thread run is overriding. Thread run method is overriding. Overriding is a concept of the inheritance. Overriding, that is a polymorphism. So the thread run concept is that the thread run is overriding the run method. Run method. So that's why most common use case of the runnable interface is when we want to only to override the run method. Okay, right. Next point, when the object of a class implementing runnable class is used to create the thread, the run method is invoked in the thread which executes separately. Okay, right. So next, runnable class is extensively used in network programming as each thread represents a separate flow of control. Okay, so simply says that The first thing is you should create the thread. You should create the thread, first point. Second point is that in the main thread, you should create an object. In the object, you can use the start. Once you are using the start, then it is directly linked through the thread run code, so that by using the overriding the thread, once if you are not using any start, then it is not overriding the takes place of the run thread run. So once it is not overriding, then it is not executed. So that's why this process to interface between the start to run is called as a runnable interface. Runnable interface. Okay. So I can show you, I can execute one program, then you can easily understand. Okay, I repeat simply what are the steps or takes place. Okay. Yes. What are the steps or takes place? So let us take that's the method. So first one, you should create a thread using a random how. So let us take, this is called as a one run. This is called as a one class. This is called as a one object created. Okay, I can explain one more time, no problem. This is called as a this is a one object. This is one object, and this object. And second one is that if you are not using this one, the program should not be executed. To run the program, what you want to do? The second is thread x. X is an object. X is an object. So X is equal to new thread runnable. So that means this is the runnable is created object of the uh, thread class. Okay. That if you are not using the runnable here, then it is not executed. This is the runnable interface. I repeat. Let us take. So this is the object creation, and this is the thread class. In the thread class, you are creating a one object. If you are using the object created in the class, then it should be runnable. If you are not using only just a new object is created in the thread, then it is not executed. This is the first point. So by observing one program, you can easily understand. Second thing, you can use the start. So once you are in the start, this is the runnable. Once you use the x dot start, then it is directly linked to the thread run method. That is the overriding method. Once you overriding method, then the program is executing. So this is the process to creation of the runnable interface. Okay, to execute the code of the thread, we can use the process. This is called as the thread will execute only which is mentioned in the run method of the runnable object passed in its argument. So this is the object passed in argument. What is the argument? Yes. So please read the sentence. The thread will execute the code which is mentioned in the run method of the runnable object passed in its argument. So this is the passed its arguments. Okay, right. So don't worry. With the explanation of one example, you can clearly understand. So first I want to stop this slide. We are going to mistake. Yes. Yes. Now I can explain with the help of one program how the runnable interface is executed. Let us take. The first thing, this is called as a class. Sorry. This is called as a class which implements the runnable interface. So that's why, what are the advantage of the interface? Multi-level inheritance is possible with the help of the inheritance. With the help of the inheritance. Interface. Multi-level inheritance possible with the help of the interface. But in the extended class, multi-level inheritance is not possible. So I want to use this method. So first thing, this is called as an example. My class is example. My class name is example class, which is implementing from the runnable interface. Right. So what is my thread? This is my thread. This is my thread. What is the thread? Public void run. So this is my thread. So then I want to execute this statement, public void run. So that this is the my thread. I want to execute this. How? So this is called as a thread creation. The first step is this is called as a thread creation. Second one, there is a default one main method is there. That main method is also called as a main thread. So what is the main thread name? Okay, so here this is the main thread. In the main thread, I am creating a one object. What is the name of the object? EX. What is the name of the object? EX. Okay, second one. This object, so this is called exam. What is the class name? This is the example class. So that's why by using the object, we can access the attributes from the class. That is the first thing you already know. So that's why I'm creating one object. But I want to run. I want to run. So that's why to create a thread object, So what is the thread object? T1. What is the thread object? T1. So which is created in thread. Suppose this thread having a arguments, this is an argument. What is the argument? EX. If you are not passing these arguments, then you are entering into the start, that thread is not executed. How? Because this is not interface to the thread. This is not interface to the run thread. So that's why it is not interface with the run thread, then that program is not executed. That program is not executed. So this is called as a runnable interface. Interface between the thread run by the object of the class is called as a runnable. An interface between the thread run to the present class is called as a runnable interface. The runnable interface only with the help of the object created in the uh, class that can be linked to the thread class, linked to the thread interface, only by passing the arguments of the argument as an object. This statement, thread T1 is equal to new thread EX, is the runnable interface. Interface between runnable interface to class. An interface between the class to runnable, So only because of this thread T1 is an object created in the thread class and new thread EX. So here if you are not using the object of the thread class, it is not processed. There is no link between the runnable to class. To make a link between the runnable to class, we can pass the object of the class as a link. Okay, as a link argument. Then T1 dot start. Once the T1 dot start, then a overriding of the thread run is overriding. So what is overriding? A run is over. So this is called the run method. This can be overriding of the thread run. Once a thread run is overriding, then it should be executed. Thread has ended, executed. Once it is executed, then thread, this is the main thread is also there, then it can be executed high. So this is another one, that is another one, no problem. So what is my main concept is that creating the thread, next to creating the object of the class, to execute that thread, we can make an interface between the class to runnable. How? By create an object in the thread and the class object can be sending as an argument. Class object is a sending to the as a argument. So what is the argument here? Ex. So what is ex here? This is the object. So this object belongs to what? Example class. Belongs to what? Example class. So that's why thread is a runnable. T1 is one object and a new thread ex. Ex is a class object. So once you are making that, a class and runnable is making an interface. Once it is making interface, then you can start. So that means you are creating a path from class to thread. Okay, now once the path is created, then you can start. So then start. Once T1 dot start, then a thread run is override. Thread run is override on the thread. So this is called as a thread override. Once a override takes place, then it should be executed. Then it is entered into the running state. Entered into the running state. So what are the steps are there? First step is class creation. Second step is enter the runnable state with the help of the T start. Before runnable state, what you want to do? You want to make a path from class to thread, class to runnable. So how? First object creation, because this object is access the arguments. Okay, so this is the object creation of the class. But now I want to execute the thread. So execute the thread with the help of the runnable. So how? Because of I want to use the thread run. Okay, run method is there. Run method is so to that run method is overriding in the class. So by with the help of this statement, thread object T1 new thread by passing the object of the class as a argument to the thread class. Okay, to the thread. Then it can enter into the runnable state. Once it is entered the runnable state, then it can initiate. So path is creating, then you are initiating the start. Okay, this is one example. Now I can show you another example. Okay. Okay. If the screen is visible to you? Hello? Hello? If the screen is visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, right. Just I want to increase this. Yeah. So let us take, by observing the second example, you can understand. So what is the multi-threading? What is the runnable interface? Everything should be understand in this example. Let us take the first one. This is called as a one thread. This is called as a one thread. So this is called as a class implements to the runnable interface. This is the runnable interface. So runnable interface is a internal part of the java.lang.threads. It is a one class, one template class. So this is the first creation of the one thread. What I am saying, what is the I want to do? I want to print the child to thread. How many times? 10 times. 10 times. So this is my task. This is my task. Okay, this is my task. Suppose I am creating the another thread. I am creating the another thread. So here I want to print child one thread. So this is how many times? 10 times. Suppose if I am not using the multi-thread method, then what happens? Child 1 can be executed first and it will take the 10 seconds time, and child 2 can be executed in the next two, it will take the 10 seconds time. So total 10 plus 10, 20 seconds time is takes place. But I want to execute in a small time, that is the 10 seconds. So I am using the multi-thread concept. Okay, let us take. So normally in the multi-threading, there is this is the threads I am creating. But there is a normal, to execute that program, we should use one separate class. Within the class, there is a one method is there, that is the main method. Main method is a main, this is a main thread. main method is also a one of the main thread is there. It is a one thread. So let us take, this is the class. So here there are so many topics are covered. This is a class and this is a class. Okay, because it's a class is an implement to the runnable. So it is a first primary, it is a class which is implement and linked to the interface. Okay, let us see, this is the class and this is the class. So access how to access the class by using arguments. This is called as a object creation. This is called as a object creation. So let us take, this is the object creation, my runnable one. So this is the my runnable one. Okay, this is the class. In the class, you are creating an object. What is the object name? R. So you are creating new object. So why we are creating object? Object can only, by the help of the object, you can access the arguments. You can access the arguments of the class. Okay? Or attributes of the class. Attributes of the class. What is the attribute here? This is the method. This is the method. So method is one attribute. So this is the arguments created in the runnable one class. This is a runnable one class. Similarly, I am creating the another object. So by the creation of the object, you can access the attributes of the class. Okay. So from which class? Runnable to. So that means it can access the attributes from this. Okay. But now this is the access. If you are not using, okay, suppose let us take what happens. I'm not using the thread concept. I'm not using the thread concept. Then what happens? I can check file, save. What is the name of this? This class is the thread demo. Okay. Java C. C. PHRE thread demo 1.java. Okay. So no error. I want to run this program. Thread demo 1. Then what happens? The thread is not running. The thread is not running. So because you are creating the two threads, okay, thread 1, thread 2, but it is not executed. So it is just a program. Okay, but my task is I want to execute the thread 1. So let's take, okay, let us take, I want to use the thread 1. So I can show you. I want to execute the both threads. So here, the objects of the class are omitted. The objects of the class are omitted. So then save and run. So Java C, yeah, yeah, demo 1. Still, because it is not started. Okay, still it is not started. I'm not passing the arguments. I'm not passing the arguments. So now it is not executed right now. So to make a link, the runnable interface, then what are the, I am saying in previous one, an object of the class is passes as a argument to the thread class. So that's why what are the objects are there? Are as an argument. And here there is a yes. There is a yes. Okay. Now, so I want to start that process. I want to start that process. Okay. Can you please tell me now? See this. I'm not using the runnable start. So then what happens? file, save. So see this, I'm not using the runnable interface. Without runnable interface, what happens? I want to check. So first save, then, yeah. Okay. No, it's not executed. Right. So now next one, I want to pass us these arguments. So then what happens? There is a R and there is a S. So this is the, I want to say that this is the runnable interface. What is the runnable interface? A class object is passes as an argument to the thread class, to the thread run, to the thread interface, to the thread interface. So then it is entered into the T1.start. Okay, and T.start, this is the thread object, and this is the another thread object, T.start, and once it is creating, then a path is created. Now I want to save, and now execute. Java C dot thread demo 1 dot Java. Okay, and next one, Java thread demo 1. Yes, yes. So please see that this is the multi-threading is executed. What is the multi-thread? How many threads are there? 3 threads. One is the main thread, second one is the thread 1, third one is the thread 2. Thread 1, thread 2, and the next one main thread. So here it is not executed. In normal process, main thread 10 times, child 1 is 10 times, child 2 is 10 times. But what happens?
It is not visible, sir.
Output is not visible. Huh? Okay, right. Just a minute. I want to share. Is it visible now? Is it visible now? Hello?
Yes, yes, sir.
Emma, is it visible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. So can you please that in previous, what happens? Only main thread is executed because the runnable interface is not linked with the thread to the present class. So only one main program is executed. But here you can observe that a multiple 3 programs are executed. One is the main thread, thread 1, thread 2 are executed and parallelly. So that's why you are getting the, whenever by the scheduler, whenever a scheduler select a particular thread one, that should be executed. So that's why, so according to the priority, scheduler can select which thread I want to select, then at that time it can be executed. That's why you will get the this one. Okay, so can you play child 1, child 2, child 2, child 1, child 1. So that's why there is a zigzag. So parallelly executed. This is the concept of the parallel executed. Parallel executed of the right now. So this is the multi-threading program. So here, what is the concept of the multi-threading? That means please see that. Yeah. Share the screen. And next one. So this is the, my concept is the runnable interface. Here our main topic is the runnable interface. Interface between the runnable to the present class. Runnable to the present class. So this is the only way. This is called as a runnable interface. How? So here, what is that? This is the running. So this running, once your interface is created, then thread run method is overriding here. Thread run is overriding here. Once the thread run is overriding here, then it should be executed. So for this, you can make an interface, runnable interface. So by which object creation in the class, and that class can be sending as a, that class object can be sending as a argument to the thread. argument to the thread interface, argument to the thread interface. So then and only it will get a path and it should be executed. Otherwise, it is not executed. So just I want to show you, please see this. Suppose if the objects are not sending to the thread as an argument, then what happens? Save. Okay, so please see this. I am not sending the objects of the class as an argument to the thread. So then what happened? So stop the share. Okay. Sorry. Share. Yes. Okay, so now I'm changing the program. So once I'm changing the program, then what happened? You should compile. Java C space thread. So spelling mistake. This is case sensitive. Thread demo one dot Java. Okay, no errors. So once there is no errors, then how to execute? Java, the class name, main class name, thread demo one. No, only main class thread is executed. Only main class thread is executed. So to execute the thread one, you should definitely use the runnable interface. In the runnable interface, what happens? You should use the class object as an argument to the thread interface. Once you can runnable interface it, then a run method is overriding. A run method is overriding in the thread. Once there is a overriding of the thread run, then it can execute the program. It can execute the program. Okay, all right. Okay, next. So I hope it is clear. You can easily understand that. Let us take the next topic is the synchronization. Next topic is the synchronization. So what is the synchronization? Let us take, at present, we are using the two threads. In the two threads, one is independent, another is independent. So both the threads are independent. So that means there is no link between one thread to another thread. So that means that is called no dependency. No dependency. What is the dependency? Dependency stands for the output of one thread is taken as the input of the another thread is called as a dependency, data dependency. But here there is no dependency, so they can execute independent. Sometimes some threads are dependent each other. That is called data dependency comes into the picture. At that, what is the data dependency? Two threads are having the same set of variables or same set of arguments they are using. So that means same parameters are used in both threads. So that means two threads are there, data dependency is there, and next one, two threads using the same set of variables. At that moment, if there is a no synchronization, so if you are not using synchronize, then what happens? Already you observed that. So thread 1, thread 2, main thread, these are all, whenever they require, they can be executed. At that moment, you are using the same arguments, you are using the same parameters. Once you are using the same parameter, then what happens? The same operation executed in the both threads, thread 1 and thread 2. So now what happened? What is the operation? Increment. Suppose I should put increment. So what is the function? Increment a variable. So whether it is entered into the first thread, it is incremented. Whether it is entered in the thread, it is incremented. Okay, so whenever a thread is required, it is incremented. So that's why I want to increment 10 times. But what happens? It will increment 20 times. Why it is 20 times? Okay, that 20 times can be used in which thread? Thread 1 or thread 2. Okay, so that means there is a confusion because of the same variables are used in the all the threads. So this is called data dependency. Once all the threads are using the same variable, there is a confusion. Okay, so where I want to increment and where I want to increment, there is some confusion. Once there is a confusion, then you will get some misbehavior or misoutput, a zigzag output, the confusion. So the output is not required by you. So there is some other output you will get. Okay, I can show you one example. Let us take. Okay, synchronization double response. Yeah. Okay, I can show you. Let us see this. Let us see this. Okay, so this is called as a one thread. Okay, this is called as a one thread, and this is the main thread. Here you are using the amount. Here you are using the amount. So that's why you are using the amount. So in the amount plus plus. So here you are using the amount plus plus, and this is another method. This is called the amount plus plus. So same parameters are used in the main thread and also subthread. This is the thread one and this is the main thread. Both are using the same one. So once there is a one, I want to using only my class, I am using only one. I want to get only one. But see this, what happens? You will get the answer after two. Yes. Because what is the initial value? Zero. What is the initial value? Zero. Suppose if I am using the amount plus plus, then what you are getting? One. But why I am getting the two? Because the two threads are there. Because two threads are there. One is the main thread and the second one is the thread one. So in the both threads, you are using the same parameters, amount plus plus. So in the amount plus plus, then what happens? Whenever the main thread is executing, it is amount plus plus. That is a one is incremented. Once it is entered into the thread one, it is again amount plus plus. That means one is incremented to two. So then you will get the two value. Okay, so that means you are acquiring unexpected values because the lack of the synchronization. Because the lack of the synchronization. So that's why, what is the synchronization? Suppose if you are using the more threads are there, then if you are using the synchronized, that means there is a synchronous from one thread to another thread. So while the particular one is synchronized, then the second thread one is wait. Second thread one is wait. Okay, so this is the process of the synchronization. So what are the steps to be takes place in the synchronization? So let us take. So what is the synchronization? Now you can easily understand. So why you are getting the problem? Because of data dependency. What is the data dependency? Two threads using the same parameters. So once they're using the same parameters and using the same operation, then what happens? There is a unexpected output should be available because whenever the thread one equal, it is increment. Whenever the thread two is, it is increment. So I am performing only this increment. I am performing the thread two increment, but I am expecting some output. But what happened? There is a same operation, same variables are there. Then there is a overriding. There is a chance of the unexpected output. This is called as a synchronized. So see this. In many cases, concurrently running threads share data and two threads try to do operation on the same variables at the same time. This often results in the, corrupt the data as two threads try to operate in the same data. That's one. So to overcome this problem, I can use the synchronization. A popular solution to provide some kind of lock the primitive. A locking of the primitive with the help of the synchronized. Lock of the primitive is synchronized. Okay, so that primitive is synchronized. Okay, I can show you one video, then you can easily understand. So in next class, I want to discuss about the, we want to create ourselves as a synchronized process. Just you can observe the one video. Uh, right. So please observe this video. Okay, so he is creating the two threads and he is using the count plus plus or increment value. So please see this, what happens.
We'll also talk about string builder and string now is if 100 and that value is count. So when your value is 1, I will add 1. The value of count now is 2, right? So it will assign 2. Now T1 will again come. It will fetch the value of count which is 2. It will assign 1, value of count becomes 3, and this goes on, right? So for T1 running for 1000 times, T2 running for 1000 times, in total it should be 2000. But what is happening is somewhere in between, when T1 reaches and asks for the value of count, so let's say the current value is, let's say, 600. So somewhere after 600, T1 reaches and T1 says, hey count, give me a value. Count says, okay, my value is 600. By the time T1 is adding the value, so by the time T1 is adding the value, what T2 is doing is, T2 has also fetched the value of count at the same time. Okay, so both are asking for the value, and the value both got is 600. Both has added 1, which is 601, because both have 600, both are got 601, and that value is assigned to count. So where it should be 2006, where it should be 6002 or 602, it is 601, because instead of incrementing 2 times, we are incrementing only once, because both are fetching the value and both are incrementing at the same time. And this is not happening once or twice, it is happening multiple times. That means both the threads are using this method at the same time. That is creating the issue. Both the threads are accessing this method at the same time. That is what is creating the issue. What I want now is, if T1 is executing the increment method, T2 should not execute this. If T2 is executing this method, T1 should not interfere. That means you want only one method. And how to achieve that? If you make this method as synchronized, that means only one thread can work with this. If T1 is working with increment, T2 has to wait. When T2 is working with the method, T1 has to wait. So maximum only one thread can work with this. So if you run this code now, you can see we got the count value as 2000. Let me run this once again. You got the value as 2000. It's that simple. Okay, so that's how you use synchronized method. So point remember is, when you don't make your method synchronized, that means your method or your object counter is not thread safe. Your class is not thread safe, which means that multiple threads can access the same method at the same time. What we want is, we want to make this method synchronized so that only one thread can use it at a time. So when T1 is executing increment, T2 will not interfere, T2 will wait. And when T2 is executing increment, T1 will wait. So that's the idea behind synchronized methods. Okay. And so once we
Okay, so now you have the clear idea how to synchronize. So what is the use of the synchronize? Okay, suppose in the first one I want to get the count value 1000 times, and second I want to get the 1000 times. Totally how many counts I want to perform in that 2000. But if you are not synchronized that, you will get the zigzag value or unexpected output value. So that's why while first is asynchronous and second one should be wait. So that means suppose multi-threading concept is I want to perform parallelly. But sometimes due to overriding or due to the data dependency, some problem should be created. Some problem be created, overriding. Multi-threads are overriding. So that's some problem. So in that situation, you want to synchronize it one, then second one should be wait by using the word keyword synchronized. Okay. So that's it for today, and we should meet in the next class. Okay, with a new topic, with a new programs. Thank you.